What's happening, everyone? Michael Olivas here. I asked my future scheduled guests to adapt their advice and responses to current times. This is a COVID-19 special edition where I will ask entrepreneurs how this current epidemic is affecting their business and life and what their advice is for you. I get it, Life Nation. I'm not just a podcast host. I'm an entrepreneur, just like you. My companies are having to pivot and innovate just to stay afloat, and I'm hearing it from guests and colleagues alike. Stay motivated, refocus, and trust me that those companies and individuals who truly strategize to get through this will flourish when it inevitably comes to an end.
You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Today, we're going to be interviewing Nathan Hirsch. Nathan is an entrepreneur and expert in remote hiring and e-commerce. Most recently, Nathan co-founded FreeUp.com in 2015 with an initial $5,000 investment, scaled it to $12 million per year in revenue, and was acquired in 2019. Today, Nathan is a co-founder of Outsource School, a company working to educate entrepreneurs on how to effectively hire and scale with virtual assistants through an in-depth course. Nathan has appeared in 300 plus podcasts, is a social media personality, and loves sharing advice on scaling remote businesses. All right, Nathan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for jumping on. So tell our listeners something interesting about yourself and also where you're calling in from today, Nate.
Ooh, something interesting about myself. Well, I'm from Massachusetts, so I'm used to the cold weather, but I now live in Florida and there's no cold weather here, no mountains or anything like that. And yeah, I've never had a real job. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20.
Oh, very cool. What was your first entrepreneurship journey?
So I started buying and selling textbooks in college. I got mad at my school bookstore because they were ripping me off. And I said, you know what? I can sell it for higher prices to these distributors. And then people were like, how do you do that? So I started being the middleman. I would buy their books and sell it back. And I created a referral program and other people would tell their friends. And I had like lines out the door of people trying to sell me their books. And I actually got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off. And that was my first glimpse into being an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've had a pretty good journey with several different, ideas about, or not ideas, but definitely companies. And I know one of those was FreeUp, and I had some personal interaction with you in the past. So helping me outsource. And I know you actually recently had an acquisition. Tell us a little bit about that, FreeUp, and then what you're doing now.
Yeah. So after the book thing, I was an Amazon seller and I really struggled to hire people in person. I was 20. I didn't know anything about hiring. College kids around me weren't that reliable. So I pivoted and went into the remote hiring world, the Upworks, the Fivers, and I really just wanted something better and faster. And I kept looking and looking. And when I couldn't find it, I said, you know what, I'll build it myself. And I launched FreeUp with $5,000, a minimum viable product, a really crummy software. And from there, I mean, the whole concept was we would get thousands of applicants every week, VAs, freelancers, agencies from all around the world, vet them, top 1% get in, make them available to people quickly. And on the back end, 24/7 support and a no turnover guarantee. If someone quits, we cover replacement costs and get them someone else. So that was a concept. We were very fortunate that people liked us. We grew very organically for 4 years from that $5,000 investment to $1 million to $5 million to $9 million to $12 million last year. And about halfway through last year, one of our clients actually reached out to us called the Hoth. And they said, hey, we love FreeUp. We want to get into the space. We don't want to start it from scratch. Would you guys be interested in an acquisition? And I think like anything else, we were open to hearing them out and they did a lot of due diligence on us. They ended up making an offer that we thought was more than fair, if not aggressive. And we did a lot of due diligence on them. We wanted to know their background, how they treat people. We didn't want them to hurt our relationships or drive FreeUp into the ground. So we were very impressed with what we saw and we made the decision to sell. We took $500,000 from the sale, gave it to our internal team in the Philippines to make sure they were taken care of,
Awesome.
Made sure their jobs were secure and all of that. And we really were only going to move forward if it was a win-win-win for everyone. And we really feel like it is. And I mean, I'm still in contact with them. We have a great relationship with them. And my new company, Outsource School, is actually partnering with them. So hopefully it ends up benefiting everyone. And it was kind of a crazy, exciting end of last year.
So how did that pivot you into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So once we sold it, we helped with the transition about 90 days and made sure that they were set up for success. And then we started trying different things like Connor and I did. I mean, we talked about real estate. We read books on memberships and courses. And we had people reaching out to us saying, hey, like, how'd you do it? Because FreeUp, I mean, we had no office. We had no US employees. It was me, my business partner, Connor, 35 VAs in the Philippines. And they did everything from billing to customer service to social media. And we didn't just wake up one day and hire 35 people and cross our fingers and hope it worked out.
Right.
We had real systems and processes for everything. So that's when the idea came about to teach other people how to use VAs. We didn't want to provide VAs anymore or be in that space, but a lot of people knew us from the VA space anyway. So it was like kind of a way for us to stay in the community. And we kind of thought, how can we make this even better? How can we do good for other people? And so we started Outsource School, which is going to help people and educate people on how to use VAs through both education and the software that we're building. And we're giving 3% of all sales to our favorite charity, Teach for the Philippines, which provides education for Filipino children. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And we're still 60 days in, and I'm sure it will develop a lot more.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. Well, I think that's exciting to know that there's outlets out there for companies. Mine exactly was one of them that still has VAs. This podcast, VAs, of course, ensuring that people are doing what needs to get done on a day-to-day basis. But in your opinion, your professional opinion, knowing that you've worked with hundreds of companies out there, probably thousands that needed, a VA, would you say that the VA is, and I know they're both important, but I'd like to kind of challenge, if I can here, Nathan, is what's more important, the actual VA, right? The quality of the virtual assistant, or the system and the process that the virtual assistant is given?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you really need both. I mean, for no one, like the reason we got acquired was because we had a really awesome team of people, but we also had all those systems and processes. Like when they did the due diligence, they said, hey, how does customer service work? How does billing work? And we responded within an hour saying, hey, here's a 30-page SOP that breaks everything down. So yep. I think both are important. I think when you get a little bit more advanced, like where Connor and I are at, like we're building out the process for Outsource School, but we don't have all the systems and processes in place. Like we're still developing it. They're going to change. So we're hiring really good VAs that can help us build those processes and help document those processes as we build them and keep them updated along the way. So I think up front, if you've never hired VAs before, those systems and processes become more important. But as you kind of get good at doing it, then it kind of tilts towards that better VA because they can actually help you build those processes.
Yeah. And I look back at the mirror and I look in the mirror on some of these things where in the past, where I was like, why am I failing with virtual assistants in the past? And a lot of it was my understanding of the expectation of what I thought was going to be expected versus giving them a very simple breakdown on deliverables, expectations, KPIs if necessary, or milestones, right? And exactly how to do those things. And then the beauty about, like you just mentioned, which I think if you're listening to this and you've had a VA, if you're interested in it, it's obviously very important to be able to make sure you're updating those, like you just mentioned, that those are going to change. You're going to pivot SOPs left and right, or else you're just not evolving. I mean, what are you doing? So you got to do that. But it's funny now that I've been through the system of VAs for so many years that I'm able to remind my podcast virtual assistant managers where it's just like, hey, listen, that's a great point that this helped, and this helped confirm someone's appointment faster. Why don't you put that in the SOP for us? Update it, right? And that's where a lot of times where you just got to go back and do it, redo it, or do it while you're actually seeing that something is changing. You need to make those updates. Any advice to those people out there that are looking for just jumping into the VA world and or I guess in general, being able to go get an executive assistant or a virtual assistant?
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. So Connor, my business partner, and I, we partnered with this third person, Nate McAllister, who's awesome. He knows way more about affiliates and a lot of other things than I do. He brings a lot to the table, but he doesn't know VAs like Connor and I do. So we gave him a VA to help with the affiliates. And I think at first he met with the VA for like 5 minutes and sent the VA back to me. And I was like, no. Like, you need to meet with her. You need to set expectations. Like, this is how we do it here. And that really is the key. I mean, if you break down hiring into 4 parts, interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing, most entrepreneurs know that you need to train or interview a virtual assistant. Most entrepreneurs know you need to train a virtual assistant, and most entrepreneurs know that you need to manage a virtual assistant afterwards. But almost every new entrepreneur to hiring forgets that onboarding, which is the setting expectations and getting on the same page up front after the interview, but before you start the training. Because what I want in a VA might be different than what you want in a VA, which might be different than their other side client. So that spending that extra time getting on the same page, making it very black and white and eliminating any gray areas is really the key to hiring success.
What's happening, Life Nation? Michael Levis here. This is a time to do the right thing, not the profitable thing. I'm giving away COVID-19 business strategy sessions for free. I promise to give you my honest advice and coach you on a strategy that I feel would be best for the longevity of your business. I'm not asking you for your money, but in the interest of being able to help as many people as I can, I am asking you to be ready with your 1 to 2 specific questions so we can jump right into it. Go to michaellevis.com/coaching and simply schedule a call on my calendar. That's michaelleolivas.com/coaching. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's out there that wants to hire a VA, but doesn't understand, sometimes it's like, well, what do I need? Because someone just probably, a lot of entrepreneurs out there that I help, that I coach as well. I think a lot of times you notice like, I'm just busy. Well, I get it. So I need help with what, right? And so what kind of advice would you give, Nathan, on how do they reverse engineer exactly what they need to give to a virtual assistant to do and how to obviously deliver that?
Yeah. So first, I like to change people's goals. Instead of like, oh, I need to hire a VA, I need to delegate it. You need to get back 5 to 10 hours a week. That's your starting point. If you can get 5 to 10 hours a week back, you're going to invest those hours either into having a better personal life or into higher level stuff into your business. And that's going to become addicting. And you can build off that. You can increase hours. You can get a new person, whatever that looks like. And so from there, how do you get 5 to 10 hours a week back? You create a list of everything you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, and you put numbers next to it. Hey, this takes me 7 hours a week. This takes me 5 hours a week. I'll even put hourly rates next to it. This is a $5 an hour task. So the $30 an hour task. From there, there's 2 ways to go about it. I personally like to prioritize it by things I hate doing the most, just because that's kind of where I'm at in my entrepreneurial journey. But a better way, I think, for newbies is to prioritize it from easiest to hardest and teach the easiest stuff first, get that off your plate, and then you're going to get better. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to make sure the VA can handle that before you add slightly harder tasks. So that's really the starting point, is figure out how do you get that 5 to 10 hours a week back, start with the easiest tasks and get them off your plate.
Nate, given our current situation with COVID-19, the outbreak and everything going on, man, how has this affected your business right now?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think the world was going more remote before COVID, and COVID kind of just sped it up. I mean, I work remote anyway. I had an office 6 years ago, and it was probably the worst business decision I ever made. I just added overhead to a business that didn't need it, and I felt like I created a 9-to-5 job for myself. So I got rid of that. I went to remote. So, I mean, outside of my fiance being home all day, which is actually kind of awesome, and my travel plans being canceled, which is not so awesome, I'm kind of just living the same like remote work life. And I'm also starting a brand new company, and there's no real like baseline for anything. So we launched our first course, Cracking the VA Code, on the first week of lockdown, which we still sold around 100 courses. Would we have sold 200 if that wasn't? Who knows? So there's nothing really for us to base it on. I think I'm much more focused on how fortunate I am that I'm in that situation, whether it's being acquired or that I've had success in the past where I don't have to worry when my next meal is coming from, stuff like that. And much more like, hey, we're going to get through it. We kind of just take this time to put our head down, focus on building, focus on systems, focus on processes, and see where we're at once this is over. I mean, I don't expect us to just blow it out of the water in the first 3 months of outsource school, kind of like we did with FreeUp and with our Amazon business because of COVID. But I think we can still have a steady income stream and still have a really good product, a really good business ready to go when this is over. And that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, relative to your expertise, Nathan, my next question would be more about how you feel, I guess, current companies out there that are having to get rid of a lot of employees because they can't afford them. How would they be able to, or what would be the first step, I guess, for someone listening to this that we know, because there's tens of thousands listening that are saying, well, I had to shut down my company. And a lot of it has to do with my overhead and my fixed costs, which we all know as employers, especially in your world, that the highest fixed cost is going to be an employee, right? And so that being said, what's the first step of someone realizing like, maybe I can keep this alive if I went and got a lower cost virtual assistant in the Philippines? And I like the Philippines all day, by the way, just my 2 cents as far as the virtual assistant quality there, and being able to say, well, maybe we can pivot and still stay alive and have them do some of the major task work that was being done by others personally that were getting done, I guess, here locally. What are your thoughts on maybe some people probably thinking that route right now?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my first overall thought is if you're a small business owner, but you've had success in the past, you've made money, your employees, your VAs, whatever it is, have helped you make money, and you're in a pretty good financial state yourself, keep them on. Show them that your support and yeah, you might lose a little bit of money short term or break even or whatever it is, but they're going to look on how you treated them once all this is over. Did you just cut ship or did you do your best to protect them? Now, everyone's in a different place in their business, in their life. So if you can't do that and you let people go, be open and honest with them and try to give them options if possible. Hey, do you want to go out and get another client? Do you want to reduce your hours? Do you want to cut your pay? Like, there are different options available depending on your situation and hear their situation. They might have 2 other clients that are affected or not affected, whatever that is. And if you do have to let someone go, and I made a Facebook post about this the other day, check in with them every week, every 2 weeks, see how they're doing. It's a stressful time for them, just like it is for you, and try to keep those relationships going. You don't know if you're going to need them afterwards or how that's going to impact your reputation or anything. So that's my overall advice. But yeah, I mean, VAs are awesome. It gives you a lot of flexibility in your business. There's lots of ways to do it. You can do it crazy like me where you only have VAs. You can have 1 VA versus 35. You can have just US employees. You can have a hybrid where each of your employees has a VA, or you have different teams, some of VAs and some of employees. So I think the flexibility is key. And yes, you can get, if you have a following task, and I like to break it down between, you can hire experts, you can hire specialists, or you can hire followers. The following tasks in your day-to-day operations should be done by VAs, by people in the Philippines. If you're paying $25 an hour in the US for someone to do a following task, that you're really just not, I guess your competitors just have a huge competitive advantage when they're using virtual assistants. So that's kind of my mentality there. And I think it just opens up that whole, you don't have to hire people in your town. You can hire towns around you. You can hire all over the world, different price points, part-time, full-time, project-based. And that's what you want as an entrepreneur.
Define following task.
That's something you know how to do yourself, that if you did it, it would go through very well. So a bad example is if you hire someone and say, hey, I don't know how to find profitable products, go find profitable products. And if you don't know how to do it, you can't hire the followers. If you have a system for lead generation, you can plug someone into your system, which is why I like to say I have a 90-day rule where I don't do anything longer than 90 days without passing off my plate. For the first 30 days, I'm throwing stuff against the wall. I'm seeing what's working, what doesn't work. By that second month, I have a good idea what's not working. I'm fine tuning. Maybe I'm interviewing someone and I pick someone. And then I spend that third month training them, delegating them. So by the end of the week, I have it off my plate, or by the end of the month, I have it off my plate. And that's kind of the mentality that you should be, is you figure it out, you create the system, you delegate it. Don't just keep adding stuff to your plate. You got to remember to take stuff off your plate too.
Yeah, you got to know how to do it, be able to teach it. I think that's really good advice, or understanding how to do it. And you're going to learn what works and what doesn't, and what's the most, I guess, efficient way that you're able to kind of break that down in a simple SOP probably format. And I appreciate that advice, as well as being able to not necessarily, and I mentioned this in one of my podcasts recently, I just did on my own, about the top 10 things to do now during the COVID-19 for a lot of small businesses. And a lot of it was also mentioning what you mentioned as well, or kind of alluded to, which was kind of have a human factor, right? Don't just close the doors. Talk to people about being able to keep them on board. I had to cut a lot of my staff, or the majority of my staff, and being able to sit down, and we do a national group travel company, so all my planners gone, the majority of my main salespeople, of course, as well. And I still have focused on the core root of the people that were going to drive us forward. But I also had to have hard conversations with them, to ask them, like, hey, listen, we can't pay you what we were paying you because we have zero income coming in. However, what do you need? Like, what can I pay you to keep you on board? And one, that I think was a big impact for them to see that I just just that you just give a shit, right? That's important. And that you're trying outside of the business, outside of the money, just hey, listen, what can I do to try to keep you alive so we can keep this business alive? And what's gonna make sure we pay your rent and your fixed costs? And let's just keep moving forward up until there's a bailout or the PPP loan comes in or whatever it might be. And I think that just goes to show to a lot of employers out there that you just care. And that's important. Like Nate was saying, that you just care and you're trying to find a way to make it work, right? What kind of advice would you give to those people right now that are having to close their doors in terms of just this whole COVID situation to kind of keep their businesses alive?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily the best person to give advice. I mean, if you really can't operate your business right now, it just becomes a game of pivoting and adjustments and trying to figure out, how do I keep it afloat to get through this? And I'll give you a great example that had nothing to do with me or any of my ideas. But my gym down the street, local gym, I love them. I know the owners. I've been going there for years, and they're obviously devastated by this. No one can go to their gym. But they did a Facebook group, $20 a month. They live stream a workout every single day. I joined it to support them. Yeah, that's a lot less than my monthly membership, but at least they can pay people, they can pay the bills, and it's actually been awesome. It's great for me because I get to continue to work out and not just sit on the couch for the next 3 months. So yeah, I think those are the kind of adjustments that people should be looking for. And I don't think there's some like, hey, do this and you'll make a ton of money again. It's more, hey, do these pivots so that you can stay afloat, and this will end at some point, and you want to set yourself up to be okay when it does.
Yeah, I think people got to realize it's going to have to just sacrifice short-term gains for long-term success. And I was using the analogy before as well, and I probably did it earlier in the last show, which was just simply, PPC ads, advertising, that kind of stuff, probably out. Long-term SEO, that kind of jazz in, right? So realizing what's important now that's going to move the needle for you later and put you in a great position when the time comes that the economy kind of opens back up. For all of our listeners interested, by the way, where can people find you, Nathan?
Yeah, so I'm one of the easiest people to contact online. Connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Nathan Hirsch, Instagram or Twitter, The Real Nate Hirsch, and check out outsourceschool.com. We have this great VA calculator that you can put in information on your business, figure out how many VAs you can afford. Go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator.
Awesome. I love that. Definitely hit up that calculator, guys. Learn how this works. It will make your life easier. Nate's definitely the guy to do it. He's helped me do it, and I definitely can back him on that. So thank you, Nate, for all of your sound bombs with us today and giving us all the breakdown in your experience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Leibus, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.